Let's verify this trigonometric identity. So when you get going on this, you want to identify, first of all, which side do you think looks more difficult, the left side or the right side? In this case, I'm thinking the left-hand side looks quite a bit more difficult than the right-hand side. So I'm going to start with the left-hand side, and I first want to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So we have a cotangent. We can replace that with cosine of theta over sine of theta. And the identity we would use to do so would be referred to as a quotient identity. All right, so the quotient identity allows us to replace cotangent of theta with cosine of theta over sine of theta. Now in our denominator, we also have a cosecant. So I'd like to replace the cosecant in terms of sine and cosine. So we can replace cosecant with 1 over sine of theta. And the identity we would use on that one is referred to as the reciprocal identity. All right, just rewriting everything in terms of sine and cosine to get going. From here, what I want to do is use algebra and reduce down, see if we can get this looking just like cosine of theta using some basic algebra. So the first thing we have is we have fractions inside of fractions. That's not good. So we want to either keep, change, flip. Some people refer to this as where you keep the top fraction, you change from division to multiplication, and then you flip the bottom fraction upside down. Another way to think about this is we're allowed to multiply both numerator and denominator of a fraction by the same thing. It's like multiplying by 1. The problem in this one is we've got these little fractions where we're dividing by sine of theta. So I can counteract that by multiplying by sine of theta. So I'll do it once in the numerator and once in the denominator. What's going on here is we're multiplying by sine of theta over sine of theta. That's like multiplying by 1. So it's not going to change things. It's just going to make things look different. But when I multiply by sine of theta, I'm multiplying by sine of theta and dividing by sine of theta up here. What we're going to get is some nice canceling out. Or simplifying down, multiplying by sine of theta and dividing by sine of theta. That basically makes a 1. So in the numerator, we're going to be left with cosine of theta. For the big denominator, we have multiplying by sine of theta, dividing by sine of theta. So sine over sine makes a 1. And we're going to be left with a 1 in our denominator. Cosine of theta over 1 really is just cosine of theta, which is what we want to end up with on the right-hand side. So we're done. So as you get going on these, pick the more difficult looking side, rewrite in terms of sine and cosine using your basic identities, and then use some algebra and simplify down from there, make it look like the other side. All right, you got this, but it takes quite a bit of practice, so keep it up.